The first to make progress in the proprieties and in music, said the master, are plain countrymen. After them, the men of higher standing. If I had to employ any of them, I should stand by the former. Footnote 1. Quite a different meaning is brought out by the native commentators, the chief of whom are followed by Professor Legge. But I think they do violence to the plain text. They represent the whole paragraph as a quotation of a common saying about the men of former and later times. Of those, said he, who were about me when I was in the Qin and Sai states, not one now is left to approach my door. Note, the men of virtuous life were Yen Yuan Hui, Min Su Qin, Yan Fai Niu, and Jun Kong Yen Yang. The speakers and debaters were Sai Wo and Zi Kong. The capable government servants were Yen Yu and Zi Lu. The literary students, Zi Yu and Zi Hia. As for Wu Wei, said the master, he is not one to help me on. There is nothing I say, but he is not well satisfied with. Footnote 1. He did not raise questions, see Book 2, 9, and in that way did not lead him on into deeper discussions. What a dutiful son was Min Si Qin, he exclaimed. No one finds occasion to differ from what his parents and brothers have said of him. Non Young used to repeat 3 times over the lines in the odes about the white scepter. Confucius caused his own elder brother's daughter to be given in marriage to him. Footnote 2. Shiking, Book 3, 3.2. Flaws may be in thy white scepter, yet they may be ground away. Flaws in things that thou hast uttered, all intangible are they. When Qi Kong inquired which of the disciples were fond of learning, Confucius answered him, there was one Yen Hui who was fond of it. But unfortunately his allotted time was short, and he died, and now his like is not to be found. When Yen Yuan died, his father, Yen Lu, begged for the master's carriage in order to get a shell for his coffin. Ability or no ability, said the master, every father still speaks of my son. When my own son Li died, and the coffin for him had no shell to it, I know I did not go on foot to get him one. But that was because I was, though retired, in the wake of the ministers, and could not therefore well do so. Footnote 1. He was still about the court when required for consultation, and was obliged to act as a high officer should. Yen Lu was not in such a position. On the death of Yen Yuan, the master exclaimed, "O me, heaven is ruining me, heaven is ruining me." On the same occasion, his wailing for that disciple becoming excessive, those who were about him said, "Sir, this is too much." "Too much," said he, "if I am not to do so for him, then for whom else?" The disciples then wished for the deceased a grand funeral. The master could not on his part consent to this. They nevertheless gave him one. Upon this he remarked, "He used to look upon me as if I were his father. I could never, however, look on him as a son. 'Twas not my mistake, but yours, my children." Footnote 2. Because the family was very poor, and the grand funeral would involve them in expense. Silu propounded a question about ministering to the spirits of the departed. The master replied, "Where there is scarcely the ability to minister to living men, how shall there be ability to minister to the spirits?" On his venturing to put a question concerning death, he answered, "Where there is scarcely any knowledge about life, how shall there be any about death?" Footnote 1. The answers may only have reference to the questioner. The disciple-man was by his side, looking affable and bland. Zilu also, looking careless and intrepid. And Yenyu and Zikong, firm and precise. The master was cheery. One like Zilu there, said he, does not come to a natural end. Footnote 2. Nor did he. He was killed during a rising in Wei. Some persons in Lu were taking measures in regard to the long treasury house. Min Ziqin observed, how if it were repaired on the old lines? The master upon this remarked, this fellow is not a talker, but when he does speak, he is bound to hit the mark. There is Yu's harpsichord, exclaimed the master. What is it doing at my door? On seeing, however, some disrespect shown to him by the other disciples, he added, he has got as far as the top of the hall, only he has not yet entered the house. Footnote 3. Zilu, a rebuke of his style of music seems to be intended. Yet the master shows that he has made some progress and will not have him contemned. Zikong asked which was the worthier of the two, Zichang or Zixia. The former, answered the master, goes beyond the mark. The latter falls short of it. So then Zichang is the better of the two, is he? Said he. To go too far, he replied, is about the same as to fall short. The chief of the Qi family was a wealthier man than the Duke of Chao had been, and yet Yenyu gathered and hoarded for him, increasing his wealth more and more. He is no follower of mine, said the master. It would serve him right, my children, to sound the drum and set upon him. Footnote 1. The Example and Dream of Confucius. See on Book 7.5. Footnote 2. Drums were sounded in the marketplace to collect the people to witness the punishment of criminals. Characteristics of 4 disciples. Zikao was simple-minded, saying Si, a dullard. Zichang, full of airs. Zilu, rough. As to Hui, said the master, he comes near to perfection, while frequently in great want. Zikong does not submit to the appointments of heaven, and yet his goods are increased. He is often successful in his calculations. Zichang wanted to know some marks of the naturally good man. He does not walk in others' footprints, said the master, yet he does not get beyond the hall into the house. Footnote 1. This term was a technical one in the vocabulary of the sage and his disciples, meaning, as the commentators say, a man constitutionally good, or having genius, without having studied. Footnote 1. This term was a technical one in the vocabulary of the sage and his disciples, meaning, as the commentators say, a man constitutionally good, or having genius, without having studied. Footnote 2. That is, he is not a copyist, and yet he never gets far forward. See, As to the House, paragraph 14. Once the master said, because we allow that a man's words have something genuine in them, are they necessarily those of a superior man? All words carrying only an outward semblance and show of gravity? Tsilu put a question about the practice of precepts one has heard. The master's reply was, in a case where there is a father or elder brother still left with you, how should you practice all you hear? When, however, the same question was put to him by Yenyu, his reply was, yes, do so. Kong Si Hua animadverted upon this to the master. Zilu asked you, sir, said he, about the practice of what one has learnt. and you said, there may be a father or elder brother still alive. But when Yenyu asked the same question, you answered, yes, do so. I am at a loss to understand you, and venture to ask what you meant. The master replied, Yenyu backs out of his duties. Therefore I push him on. Zilu has forwardness enough for them both. Therefore I hold him back. On the occasion of that time of fear in Kuang, Yen Yuan having fallen behind, the master said to him afterwards, I took it for granted you were a dead man. How should I dare to die, said he, while you, sir, still lived. Footnote 1. See Book 9.5. On Qi Zizhan putting to him a question anent Zilu and Yenyu, as to whether they might be called great ministers, the master answered, I had expected your question, sir, to be about something extraordinary and low. It is only about these two. Those whom we call great ministers are such as serve their prince conscientiously, and who, when they cannot do so, retire. At present, as regards the two you ask about, they may be called qualified ministers. Well, are they then, he asked, such as will follow their leader? They would not follow him who should slay his father and his prince, was the reply. Footnote 1. Younger brother of the chief of the Qi family. He had employed these two disciples in his service, hoping ultimately to get possession of the dukedom. Through the intervention of T.S. Zilu, T.S. Zikao was being appointed governor of Pai. You are spoiling a good man's son, said the master. Zilu rejoined, but he will have the people and their PG-60 superiors to gain experience from, and there will be the altars. What need to read books? He can become a student afterwards. Here is the reason for my hatred of glib-tongued people, said the master. Footnote 1. See on Book 6.7. Zikao was only half-educated, simple-minded. See paragraph 17, and quite unfit for such an office. Footnote 2. The earth altar and grain god altar, he would have opportunities of worship. Footnote 3. A good story is given by Dr. Legg in a chapter on the disciples, corroborating what is there said about Zilu. At their first interview, the master asked him what he was fond of, and he replied, my long sword. Confucius said, if to your present ability there were added the results of learning, you would be a superior man. Of what advantage would learning be to me? Asked T.S. Zilu. There is a bamboo, which is straight itself without being bent. If you cut it down and use it, you can send it through a rhinoceros hide. What is the use of learning? Yes, said the master, but if you feather it and point it with steel, will it not penetrate more deeply? Zilu bowed twice and said, I will reverently receive your instructions. On one occasion Zilu, Sengxin, Yenyu, and Kung Si Hua were sitting near him. He said to them, though I may be a day older than you, do not for the moment regard me as such. While you are living this unoccupied life you are saying, we do not become known. Now suppose someone got to know you, what then? Zilu first to speak at once answered, give me a state of large size and armament, hemmed in and hampered by other larger states, the population augmented by armies and regiments, causing a dearth in it of food of all kinds. Give me charge of that state, and in 3 years' time I should make a brave country of it, and let it know its place. The master smiled at him. Yen, said he, how would it be with you? Give me, said Yen, a territory of 60 or 70 li square, or of 50 or 60 square. Put me in charge of that, and in 3 years I should make the people sufficiently prosperous. As regards their knowledge of ceremonial or music, I should wait for superior men to teach them that. And with you, Kung Si, how would it be? These disciples' reply was, I have nothing to say about my capabilities for such matters. My wish is to learn. I should like to be a junior assistant, in dark robe and cap, at the services of the ancestral temple, and at the grand receptions of the princes by the sovereign. And with you, Sang Sin. This disciple was strumming on his harpsichord, but now the twanging ceased. He turned from the instrument, rose to his feet, and answered thus, something different from the choice of these three. What harm? Said the master, I want each one of you to tell me what his heart is set upon. Well, then, said he, give me in the latter part of spring dressed in full spring-tide attire in company with 5 or 6 young fellows of 20, or 6 or 7 lads under that age, to do the ablutions in the ice stream, enjoy a breeze in the rain dance, and finish up with songs on the road home. The master drew in his breath, sighed, and exclaimed, Ah, I take with you. The 3 other disciples having gone out, leaving Sang Sin behind, the latter said, What think you of the answers of those 3? Well, each told me what was uppermost in his mind, said the master. Simply that. Why did you smile at Zilu, sir? But Yen, then he had a state in view, had he not? I should like to be shown a territory such as he described which does not amount to a state. But had not Kung Si also a state in view? What are ancestral temples and grand receptions but for the feudal lords to take part in? If Kung Si were to become an unimportant assistant at these functions, who could become an important one? Footnote 1. Lit. A state with 1,000 war chariots. Footnote 2. A li is about 1/3 of a mile. Either would be a small state. Footnote 3. Lit. Capped ones. At 20 they underwent the ceremony of capping and were considered men. Footnote 4. That is, before the altars, where offerings were placed with prayer for rain, a religious dance. Thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more excellent content.